Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to an announcement video, my first announcement video for 2025. Yeah, me, even though it's only the 15th of December. But this is a very exciting one, and hopefully next year will go a little better than it did this year, because this is the announcement for the books that we will read for Sandy's book club. Sandy from Ms. Reads a Lot, she also has this quest, like I do, to read 1001 books. Hers is like 1300 something, because she combines all those books that are published about the 1001 book you have to read. And as you know, if you follow my channel, I have my own list, because I only want to read female authors for the 1001 women I want to read before I die. You will find my list and my TBR on Goodreads down below. You find a link. But anyway, so Sandy also has a book club in which you can participate, and there's a Discord channel, and we read. Last year we had 10 books, no books in January, no books in August, but I had a really busy year with illness and my mom's illness and work, and Sandy was extremely busy with work and also personal things, so we did not do that well. The two of us. So what we decided is Sandy wants to continue the book club, which is great, and she still wants me as a crappy co-host, which I really appreciate. But we decided for this year, or for rather next year, 2025, we will only pick 6 books. So every 2 months, a book every 2 months. I think that's very reasonable and feasible, and hopefully you will join us, and we announce it today so that you have enough time to get the book for January, February, to have a look at the list, whether you want to participate, look at your library, which books are available. So I hope you will join us, and I hope you will just forget about 2024 like I do. Anyway, to begin with some statistics. I have to look that up, of course. Yes, in 2023, I read 52 books from the list, which is good, certainly given the year I had. And I will start 2025 with 553 books read, yes, and 484 books unread. I will put this here. A little disclaimer, because I still have 2 books to read that I already counted, but it's only the 15th of December, and I'm sure I will read those 2. That's the Gossamer Years from my classic list, and The Life and Death of Harriet Freen, I think, from Sandy's book list. So assuming that this will all work out, I will start 2025 with 553/448. And I'm aiming again for 52 books. I think that's reasonable. That's a book a week, I know, but sometimes I have months where I read 6-7 books off the list, and sometimes I have months like December, it's going to be 2. But the average of a book a week is manageable. Anyway, those were all the preliminary remarks. Let's get to the list, and you find the list with the Goodreads links, of course, also down below in the description box. So January and February, we will read Amy Hempel, Reasons to Live. Amy Hempel is, I think there's a picture. Yes, here we go. Is an American author, and this is a short story collection. I have never read any Amy Hempel. I haven't, hit the screen. I hadn't even heard of her as a obviously quite well-known short story writer. As you know, if you follow my channel for some time, I'm not a big short story reader, so I'm really glad that we picked this, and we have another short story collection. So 2 of the 4 are short story collections. And this is quite a slim volume with 128 pages. And I think it's about 10 stories. Yeah, something like this. This is the table of contents. So the stories are short. If you look, some are just 7-8 pages. But I'm curious. She's very lauded as a short story writer. So we will see. January and February. Reasons to Live by Amy Hempel. Then March and April will be a reread. Let me just check whether I'm not mixing up the month. That would be typical me. No, March and April will be a reread for me, because one of the things that I really enjoyed about my reading year in 2024 is that I reread quite a bit. Much more than in previous years, almost as much as I used to reread when I was quite a bit younger. And I want to continue that in 2025. So even though the next book is not gonna, bring my read up and my to read down, I'm really looking forward, because we picked Carol Shields' The Stone Diaries, which was published in 1993. Yes, is that true? 1993, yes. Carol Shields was a Canadian author, even though she was born in the United States, but she is considered to be a Canadian author. She died about 20 years ago, and she is definitely one of my favorite contemporary writers, and this is one of my absolute favorite books. It is the story of Daisy Stone and her life. Born 1905, the birth scene in the beginning is, you will not forget ever, I promise. And it's her life that kind of goes by without her feeling any agency about what to do with her life, how to create a life for her own, until quite late in her life. But it is a very quiet story of a woman's life in the beginning of the 20th century. And I thought this book is absolutely brilliant. And yes, Sticker, thank you very much. It won the Pulitzer Prize. So I'm very much looking forward to rereading this one. March, April. This is weird today. This is a bit better, is it? But it's anyway. January, February, March, April, May and June, the second short story collection, Aeneas Nin, Delta of Venus, published in 1977. Aeneas Nin, despite the name, she was born in French to Cuban parents, but she moved to the US, and she's considered an American writer, American-French writer, and she writes in English. And this is, like I said, a short story collection. I have read her diaries. That's one of the things she's famous for. She had this long-term relationship with another writer, Henry Miller, who is kind of famous for his pornographic work, if you want to call it that. I remember when I read this when I was in my late teens. It was like, very visual, let's say, and very macho. But anyway, she writes, Aeneas Nin wrote, she died in 1977-ish, but she wrote erotic stories. I never read any of her fiction. Like I said, I read the diaries, and that is probably 40 plus years ago. So this is my first encounter of her fiction. Again, short stories. I'm happy about that, to kind of boost my short story reading, and maybe I will at some point really get into it. I'm just not a short story reader for some, but it's good that I have two now in this in our book club, so maybe it's an acquired taste for me. And I'm really curious to read. I don't read erotica. I find that especially sex scenes in most fiction is just hideous. Me included, most authors, again, me included, can't write sex scenes. I tried it once and it was just an abomination. I can't write it, and most authors can't. So I'm really curious, because she's famous for it, whether I like the way she writes erotic scenes and sex scenes. So this is January, February, March, April, June, May and June. Is it right? May and June, yes. July and August is a 1940s novel by Nancy Mitford, The Pursuit of Love, and I bought the collection and other novels because this is a series of three. The Pursuit of Love, Love in a Cold Climate, and The Blessing. But only we read only The Pursuit of Love for the book club. Like I said, published in the 1940s, but set between the wars, so between after the First World War, before the start of the Second World War. And of course, Nancy Mitford, here is a picture of our author, is one of the famous Mitford sisters. So this is supposed to be a romance. Nancy Mitford was very successful with her novels. I have read another Mitford sisters. I'm just looking. I can't remember the name, but it was a memoir. I have never read any fiction, and certainly not by her. So we'll see. I find the period, the interwar period between the two world wars, really a very interesting period to read novels from, especially if the writer already knew, like this one is published in the 40s, that there will be a Second World War. Obviously, people living in the 1920s didn't know, so for them it was not an interwar period. It was the period after the first big World War. So it's not even called World War I back then, because we didn't know that it would be a second one. So anyway, I'm rambling. But this one, I'm looking forward to finally reading some fiction by one of the Mitford sisters, July and August. Then we have September, October. I only got print on demand hideous copy, which I just will use to put it in my bookshelf, and I will read it either on Kindle or on Script, or what's called now Everend or something, because this format. But anyway, so September, October is Charlotte Lennox, The Female Quixote, or The Adventures of Arabella. This is the oldest book on the list, published in 1752. September, October, you have Victober. This is before the Victober era, but we wanted to pick a book that was older for that, for these 2 months, September and October. I've never read any Charlotte Lennox either. She was quite a successful novelist, a poetry writer in her age, but now she is mainly known for The Female Quixote, which is kind of a satirical take on Don Quixote, which incidentally I read this year. So this is a good pick for me to look at. Not quite contemporary, because 1751 is quite a bit later than Don Quixote was published, but still almost in the time and from a female perspective. And our hero Arabella, or heroine Arabella, she is very much into romance novels, and that kind of colors the way she looks at life and how she goes about her life. So whereas the Cervantes Don Quixote was into these kind of knight hero books, and that colored his experience and his perception. Here we have a female Quixote, and it's romance. She's not going on a big quest, so there is no, road trip involved in this. I think the main issue here for the satirical take is being obsessed with a certain type of book and how that influences her life. It's supposed to be funny, so we'll see. September, October. And then the last book I don't have yet because delivery was delayed, as they sometimes are. So I will put a picture up here. And that is Margaret Mazzantini. Do I pronounce that right? Yeah, Margaret Mazzantini. Don't Move. Translated from the Italian by John Cullen. Published in 2001. So I will probably not read this edition because what I ordered now, for me, the easiest to get was a German translation. But this is the English translation if you want to read along with that. As Mazzantini is, she was born in Dublin, but she's an Italian author. I mean, the name gave it kind of away. I have never read her either, but she's a contemporary author, born, I think, 1961 or something. And she was also an actress. But this is her one of her most famous books, which was also made into a movie. And it's about Timoteo, a very successful surgeon who is called to the hospital because his daughter is in the hospital, and while he's sitting at his daughter's hospital bed, he is thinking back about, as one does, about his life and the affair he had in the year that Angela, his daughter, was born, with a woman he met by chance, and the kind of obsessive love affair this became while he was already married. Yeah, that is all I know about the book. Again, I haven't read this author, but she is on both of our lists. And I should have said probably, Sandy and I looked at both our lists, her 1,300 books and my 1,001 books, and we just looked which books are on both of our lists, and then we picked, like last year, we picked a couple, and this year we picked 6. So anyway, these will be the 6 books that Sandy and I read for Sandy's book club. And I promise, Sandy, I will try my very best to be a better co-host next year than I was this year. I hope you will join us, at least maybe for some books that you are interested in. Again, 2 months per book seems very reasonable. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to your comments as always, and I'll talk to you soon in the next one, next Sunday.